Hello everyone, I'm Cole from the Kingdom, and today I want to start talking about the origins in Dragon Age Origins. Originally, I was going to be ranking these with a whole scoring system, but now I think that's kind of pointless, so I'm just going to review each one individually and talk about what I like and don't like. So today we're starting off with the Magi Origin because frankly I've played it about 5,000 times and I don't want to do it anymore. The first thing we're introduced to is the Harrowing, a final exam/graduation for young mages. There's exposition right off the bat, but it's actually pretty decent. The stuff Gregor says sounds like it would be spoken at the beginning of every Harrowing. Then First Enchanter Irving gives you some last-minute advice, but the stuff he says is mostly stuff the character would already know. But concerned old man who cares about you, I can see him reminding you of the basics, since that can actually help. So pretty decent job so far. Then we jump into the toilet. I mean the Fade. The Fade is literally a world of pure imagination. So why is it so ugly? It should be beautiful. It should be breathtaking. But yes, it should also be weird. Let me describe what I'm thinking it should be. First of all, it should not have this milky green smeared over everything. At least not everywhere. Like in the raw, undeveloped Fade, sure, have this disgusting fleshy rock to walk on and green mist, sure. But in, say, the Spirit of Valor's area, it should have a lot of stone, maybe look like an arena, or at least like a quartermaster's area. It shouldn't be nothing. Then for the Demon of Sloth, either a super serene wooded area and a nice campsite, like the one behind the Grand Oak, or a super comfy and inviting bedroom. And these two areas should change abruptly. That's the sort of thing that reminds you you're not in the real world. Just a quick stroll from an arena to a comfy home. The Rage Demon area is fine, I guess. It's just, why is the Fade so ugly? It makes me not want to play the Magi Origin. I realize complicated things like the arena I mentioned probably weren't in the cards when they first made Origins. But that's not really the point here. They could have done something. Now you either fight Valor or outsmart him, answer Sloth's riddles, fight the Rage Demon, then there's the final twist, which was probably the best part of this whole segment. This teaches us more about demons in the Fade. This gets the job done. Points for that. We wake up back in the tower and meet Jowen, who is apparently our best friend in the circle, except, in my opinion, he's very whiny and his voice is very annoying. No disrespect to the voice actor, I've heard some of his other roles and they were totally fine. It's just specifically Jowen. If he was doing it on purpose, then good job. But I mean, if the circle was anything like my school life, I probably would have been friends with him by default, because no one else wanted to be friends. Which isn't a bad thing, everyone deserves to have someone. I'm just saying I wouldn't have gone out of my way to hang out with him, unless he was off by himself and seemed lonely. Actually, that's probably what happened here. I'll just go ahead and headcanon that. Now, something I don't like about the Circle Tower is that there's a ton of room being totally wasted, and not enough room to actually house the Circle. There are 2 dormitories for the apprentices, these children and teenagers, most of whom were ripped away from their families at a young age. I mean, this is just a recipe for disaster. And there are, 8 rooms for the mages upstairs? Cullen tells a story in Inquisition involving 70 mages and 30 Templars, presumably here. Even if that's the entire population of the Circle, which I doubt, and that number includes apprentices, which I doubt, there still isn't enough room. I'd also like to point out that there is no cafeteria, nor any place to store food. Okay, I'll stop going on about this. Suffice to say, the level design here is an example of the environment misleading. Environment tells a story even if you don't intend it to. Starting the game here, you would get the impression the Circle has a population of maybe 50 people, tops. Maybe 24 Templars on top of that. Asunder says there were several hundred mages in the Circle in Val Royeaux. Sure, that's probably bigger, but I would expect at least 100 in Ferelden. Again, a big populated area probably wasn't in the cards, but there's stuff you can do to create the illusion that there's more to it that you don't get to see and explore. Also, why are they teaching children and practicing spells in the middle of the library? There actually is plenty of unused room elsewhere. Alright, so that's enough on the level design for now. Let's talk about the characters. We go meet with Irving and Gregor again, get some exposition, we can talk to Duncan a little, then Jowan tells us to meet him in the Chantry. We can talk to Cullen, which I think gets more interesting in retrospect. If you're female, you can flirt with him. If you say certain things, he gets embarrassed and literally runs away. You can talk to Owain the Tranquil, which can be very unsettling, but it does its job since this is what mages are afraid of becoming. Particularly Jowan here in a minute. There are a bunch of other people to talk to, but they're mostly forgettable. You got old guy who can't see well, elf who complains you're in his light, a woman who wants you to clear out the storage caverns because they're infested with giant spiders somehow, guy who tells you about fraternities, Templar at the door who suggests you don't try to fight gravity, woman praying who is later severely traumatized, and a handful of other people around for flavor. So not that great, especially compared to other Origins, but I appreciate having these characters around. It sets you up to expect what kind of game this is going to be. You can talk to lots of different people and have a good variety of what you can say to them. So with the rest of the story, Jowan introduces us to Lily, and then they tell you about how Jowan is going to be made tranquil because he is suspected of blood magic, but he denies that. They say their only option is to destroy his phylactery and escape the circle. You can rat him out to Irving, who requests your help catching Lily in the act as well. He also gives you some information on what to expect down in the basement. Actually, Irving is a little devious about this situation. At first I thought it was noble to uphold the rules, but playing it again, Irving is giving me a weird vibe. Like, spiteful. In any event, you need to obtain a Rod of Fire, but to do that you need a Senior Enchanter's signature. You can get this from a variety of sources, which again primes you on what kind of game you can expect. One with a bunch of different options, and some you may have to be clever to access. So good job on that. We get the rod, head into the basement, which is weirdly unguarded, open magic door, and then the next door is apparently enchanted, so mages cannot cast spells around it. I've talked about this in other videos, but I feel like this should be a much more common thing. I think this is the only time anything like this is mentioned. So we go around, fight some suits of armor and ghostly mages, suggesting the circle actively uses spirits for defense, which is weird. Actually, the more I think about it, the weirder it is. We enter the repository and there's a handful of cool assets around. We can talk to a talking statue and Lily complains about it. We break down a wall, destroy Jowan's phylactery, and then escape to find Irving and Templars waiting for us. If you ratted Jowan out, Irving defends you, but Gregor is still furious. Jowan escapes, Duncan recruits you into the Grey Wardens for your dedication and skill. As far as how well this sets up the rest of the game, the quests and characters give you a good idea of what to expect as a player, and gives you a good idea of what to expect mechanically, and a little thematically. But as for how it sets up the rest of the story, it's not really that great. It teaches you a bit about magic, which is useful, but it doesn't really set up the Darkspawn threat or the cultures you'll be interacting with. You'll see in other Origins you get at least one of those things, but the Circle is really too isolated in Origins. I think it has its place, but it's my least favorite Origin right now. So let me know what you guys think of all this. What did you think of the Magi Origin? Do you agree with my thoughts? Why or why not? So that's it for now, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment and like. I'll see you later.